What is up, everybody? It is Nicholas.
And Amber.
And welcome to the first episode of the Not Applicable podcast. It took me a little while to think of something. I told Amber to try and help me think of something, and we were both like, oh, what could we do? We were trying to play off, like, both of our names, and then I was like, N.A. I was like, North American Podcast.
Perfect.
Got it. Perfect. So I'm hoping this is going to be something that we continue to do on a either weekly or bi-weekly basis, depending on how well it does. But Amber, like, how many podcasts do you listen to right now?
Right now, I'm probably listening to only like a couple, maybe two. I've only ever listened to, I think, 4 different podcasts in like completely. Like, that's all I've listened to. I haven't listened to very many.
I got you. So for me right now, like, I'm listening to a lot of podcasts because, like, out mowing the lawn and stuff, I usually download YouTube videos and listen to them anyways. So I kind of realized this was something that I had never done, even when it was content. Like, more recently, I've been consuming a lot more podcasts, but to some extent, I've been listening to podcasts since 2011, 2012, somewhere around there. My first podcast was Monster Hunter podcast, which I was super into Monster Hunter. Still am super into Monster Hunter, but yeah. So forgive us if this isn't perfect, because like we just heard, we don't consume a ton of podcasts, but this is something that we figured would be fun to make. And that's why you make any kind of content, right? Is that why you paint?
Yeah.
I mean, just, it's fun to do, you know what I mean? So Amber, what are we talking about today for our... Now, I want to be... Hold on, she laughs. I want to be clear. This is not what every episode is going to be about. Honestly, we're going to make every episode about whatever we want it to be about. If we see a movie that we feel like we need to talk about, it's going to be about that. If there's something going on that we want to talk about, basically whatever we want. So Amber, now that you're done laughing, what is this episode about?
This episode is about Death Note, the Netflix film.
Okay, so when this came out, and actually it's my top note.
Oh, jeez. Did you write when it came out?
No.
I don't even know what year it came out.
Right, 2018, I think, probably. I literally have written at the top of the list, I think people just hated it because so many other people said they hated it. And that's kind of... I'm looking at Amber, waiting for her to respond to that.
I'm trying not to go off right away. I don't have Netflix downloaded right now, otherwise. Well, I guess I could just Google it.
Because when this came out, that was the biggest thing I heard from people, was how much they hated it and how bad it was. And so, of course, I went into it thinking it was going to be terrible.
And I think that sets you up for failure a lot of time with movies. When all you hear is negative things, a lot of the times if you go into it knowing that, you're like, oh man, I'm going to hate this movie. It's going to be garbage. And a lot of people, even if they might have enjoyed it, if they hadn't heard that, they won't enjoy it just because of going in with that mindset.
And I agree with that. It's because I went into it thinking I wasn't going to like it. Honestly, I think we have 2 very different opinions on this. I loved the movie, and I haven't finished the anime.
2017 film.
2017?
Mm-hmm.
So I absolutely loved.
Problematic.
I loved the movie. You say it's problematic? Is that what you're going to say about it?
Okay, well, let me start off by saying that I thought about this a lot, and we I can't talk. We rewatched the movie maybe, I'd say less than a week ago in preparation for this, because we had already seen it, I think when it first came out in 2017, we saw it. And when I rewatched it, right away, I had actually been watching Death Note, the anime, over again. So I was comparing the 2, obviously. And I think the main thing that I've taken away from this is you cannot compare this movie to the anime or the manga or any of that. I would look at it as a standalone, taking the same general idea, because otherwise all you're going to be doing is nitpicking the whole thing and looking at the negative parts of the movie.
Okay, but hold on. So in the same kind of breath, so here's the thing. Why does the Netflix adaptation have to be true to the source material.
If you look at it as a standalone film, I think that that's fine. And I mean, obviously, there's a lot of movies that are based off of books that are based off of, I mean, anything. It happens with movies that are based off of books. It happens with movies that are the ideas taken from another movie or sequels to things. I mean, it's always going to happen.
No, and I completely agree. And it kind of, how do I put this? So I feel like the movie for me delivered a better experience than the anime, at least as far as I watched. And now, agree with me here, I watched pretty far into the anime. It's not like I watched 2 episodes in and it was like, I've seen enough, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I'd say you made it at least to like 10 episodes.
I'd say 3/4 because Elle's dead.
There's 37.
Spoiler alert.
There's 37 episodes to the anime.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, I think when that event happens is, oh geez, I guess you're right. You did watch farther than that then.
I watched like 3/4.
You watched most of it then. You would have watched 20 some episodes.
So hold on. So let's start with this, okay? So the movie comes out, and all you hear from everybody is this uproar of Netflix ruined Death Note.
They say that about everything, though. Anytime you look up anything, Netflix ruined this for me. Netflix ruined that. And I'll say, I've watched a lot of Netflix original films, and they're not all that great, but you can find some diamonds in the rough.
Okay. Well, because for me, like I said, if you're looking at it, and I literally wrote this here, we'll get to our notes in just a minute, but I'm just trying to get through like the initial, like my initial thoughts. If you look at it as Death Note, the live action movie, yes, of course, it is not. I feel like if they had tried to follow the movie plot or the anime plot exactly, it wouldn't have been as good for me.
Yes, but I think that's why so many people would be disappointed, is because they're expecting to see their beloved anime shown at least pretty consistently with a movie, which, I mean, first of all, it's a lot longer than a movie, so it's hard to cram that much information into a film.
Definitely. But the biggest thing is that no matter what, no one is going to be happy. Okay.
No.
So here's the thing. Let me, and I actually wrote this down again. So you're a Harry Potter fan.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Are any of the books bad?
No. I
Okay.
loved all of the books.
Okay, so all of the books are good to you. Okay, now let me ask you this. How are the movie interpretations of the books? Now, hold on. No, don't get too worked up, okay?
You already know I have to be warned. I'll just say number 4.
Okay, now, but hold on. Now, hold on.
It makes me so mad.
But
I
hold
hate
on.
it.
Is it a bad movie or is it just a bad representation of the source?
I think I think that one's a little bit of both, in my personal opinion. Most of the movies, it's just not as good of a representation of the book that I'd like, which, again, a lot of content, hard to put into one film. So that's the case with most of them. But number 4 is just, that's a podcast for a different day. But no, number 4 was also my favorite book, but it's my least favorite movie.
Okay, but there you go. Do you think that because it was your favorite movie or your favorite book,
higher expectations? Exactly. It puts a lot into play.
My biggest question is, did everyone really hate Death Note, or did they hate how Netflix spun Death Note?
That's what it is.
Because
100%.
I loved Death Note.
I know you did.
So as someone
both times, I thought when we rewatched it, you would realize, oh, I don't like this as much as I thought. But you loved it the first time and the second time you watched it.
Maybe even more the second time, because what I will say is, for me, as someone who wishes could be more into like filmmaking stuff and like cinematography, watching it like the first time I watched it as an experience, second time I watched it trying to pick it apart more. And while there are problems, again, we will get to our notes for sure. I see Amber keep wanting to be like, we will get to our notes in just a second. But to finish off, I liked the movie both times, and I have not finished the anime. I couldn't even bring myself to watch the anime. Honestly, I was like, it almost seemed, how did Trent put it? It's almost like a girls anime, and that is not my opinion. That is not my opinion, but that's what Trent.
I get that because I feel like a lot of the people that I remember talking about this when it came out, oh geez, I was in middle school when this anime came out. And I think a lot of the people that were talking about it were females. And I mean, that happens with everything. There's always more.
If you hear slurping noises, I'm drinking a Moscow Mule while we were recording this. So I just realized
at the time of recording,
I was trying to sip very quietly and I made like a very loud noise.
You could hear the ice tinkling.
The ice tinkling, I don't care, but it was like a, and I was like, okay, I gotta address that. Anyways.
No, I think that happens with a lot of things. There always ends up being like a certain gender that enjoys it more, talks about it more at the very least. I don't know, but there's also the fact that we would like to point out have you ever completed an anime of any kind? I know you used to read manga.
One weekend I finished One Piece, so I joke. So the closest I've come to finishing an anime, I don't think I've ever finished a traditional anime, at least not ever since I've like in my adult life that I can remember. I may have like obviously when stuff was coming out, like for example, like I don't know if you want to count like stuff like Digimon as an anime because it's technically an anime, or Bleach, for example.
Oh, Bleach is an anime.
But I don't know for sure. It's one of those things where like, do you remember if you
watched it a lot, but you don't know if you completed it?
Do you remember if you watched every episode of SpongeBob?
No, I definitely didn't watch every episode.
Are you sure though? In the original saga, okay.
The original SpongeBob.
In the original Patrick
it
villain
feels
arc.
like it because I know all the memes from it.
Okay, so basically, yes, I have not watched a lot of anime, but at the same time, I appreciate anime. I've watched. We started watching My Hero Academia, stuff like that. So it's not that I'm against anime because I want to make that clear that like I know some people liked this movie who were like, "Fuck anime." And I still liked this movie, and I'm like, but there's a fact of a lot of people.
It was, to be honest,
it was westernized. That's what I want to say.
But, well, I'd like to touch on the fact that you just said that a lot of people that don't like anime enjoyed this movie, and I think that's kind of what it seems to be the audience it seems to be for. I mean, if you look at it more of a like thing for trying to get people to watch it that aren't into anime, I feel like people that don't like anime would enjoy it more than people that do like anime.
I'm going to say something very controversial here, okay? I feel like it's actually more realistic than the anime. I have that literally written in my notes. I feel like it's more realistic. Because listen, hear me out here.
No, I agree.
Hear me out. Book falls from the sky, okay? Mm-hmm. Teenage kid, okay? Both instances, anime and supposedly intelligent in both, okay?
Yes.
Or at least they imply he's very intelligent.
Teenage boy.
It's more implied in the anime because they're like, oh, he's like super intelligent.
They tell you about his
and you get to hear you get to hear his inner thoughts. You know what I mean? Little bit of a psychopath, but you know, in both instances. But listen, book falls from the sky, and it gives a teenage kid the power to basically have a demon kill whoever he wants. Mm-hmm. Is that teenage kid gonna be like, I need to keep this to myself. I need to use this for good, or is he gonna be like, oh my god, I can get so much poon, it's not even funny. And that's the first thing he does is like he literally gets it. He kills that kid. Yeah, he kills that kid, and then he's like, hey girl, I got a book that can kill people.
Girl he's never talked to before.
Yeah.
That's another thing about westernized things. Like, you gotta have the girl.
I know. And I get it. I get it because it does bring people's interest more to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm trying to adjust our audio levels. If you guys keep hearing the audio like go a little bit up and down, it's because I adjust audio as I see things going bad. When Amber starts to get worked up, she gets.
I'm sorry. I'm trying to contain myself. It's hard to be close to a mic when you're me, and I get loud when I get emotional.
Okay, so let me ask you this. Which one do you think was more realistic? Which, keep in mind, one's an anime, one is a movie. Neither one needs to be realistic.
I guess if you're looking at the characters and their reactions, I'd say the movie is more accurate. Okay. Especially, oh my gosh, I have to touch on this. Right away when you're first introduced to Ryuk, his reaction to seeing this god of death is so incredible. I just love it.
How does he react in the anime? I forget. I haven't watched the beginning of the anime in forever. Is he pretty calm about it?
he's kind of freaked out about it, but not as much as the anime.
Doesn't scream, try to run away.
I think he yells and like falls off his chair or something. I don't quote me directly, but it's definitely
You just
not.
watched this like 3 days ago.
Okay, but I watched all 37 episodes in 2 days, so
It was like 3 days.
yeah, well, 2.5.
But yes, he
does have a reaction though.
In the Netflix movie, I feel like Light's reaction is much more realistic. Can I also just say that the fact that someone being named Light seems more like a realistic thing in like Japanese culture rather than like
it's so strange to hear this.
We say
American
this,
named Light.
But hold on, we say this, but there are children named like Apple now.
Yeah,
like,
I guess.
Like we're just naming them
But you
after our
never see
favorite
it in
thing.
real
Like
life.
my kid's name would be mashed potatoes.
Obviously.
This is my child, mashed potato. But yes, it feels like.
No, it does sound very strange, especially when everyone around him has like an average name,
Well, yeah,
and then it's Light.
so Americanized. But hold on, it's so American. What did they say his last name is? Did they say his last name is Yagami?
No, they gave his last name. It was like something super generic. Oh man, I should.
But it wasn't. But his
No,
last
it was
name
not
in the
Japanese.
movie, okay? Because I don't
No,
remember. Like I said, I was paying attention to certain stuff, but I was also trying to take down notes.
It was like. Oh my gosh, I want to say.
But it was very
started with a T.
westernized.
Yes, very.
Basically,
westernized.
to wrap it up, very westernized. While I love the Netflix adaptation, it is definitely not true to the source material. I've already said that, and I think that might be a positive for it because some people, I feel like from what I watched, the anime is very, and I guess the manga probably to go with it, is very. I almost want to say niche. You know what I mean? Like.
Mm-hmm.
Like you'd have to be anime and manga are a very niche thing to be into anyways. And I don't mean that as like a negative. Like I like anime and manga too. I love cartoons. No, I'm just kidding.
Uh-oh.
No. But like it's this niche of a niche, you know what I mean? Where like it's almost like you might be into movies. That doesn't mean you're into romantic comedies, you know what I mean? Like you're only into action movies. I feel like Death Note falls into this like certain niche of a niche when it comes to anime and manga.
I would agree. I've heard that a lot as well because it seems like people either want nothing to do with Death Note or it's like they love it. They absolutely adore it.
Okay. Why do you like the anime better? I feel like I'm interviewing you here.
Yeah, it is a little interviewee. Well, I mean,
so what would you
also,
say? What would you say your best quality in Death Note is?
I think a lot of it has to do with it's the only anime that I've ever watched and completed, so that makes a big difference. Yes, I've watched before this. My main thing was like I've watched a lot of
The Little Mermaid was your favorite anime.
Yes, exactly. No, I've watched a lot of Studio Ghibli. I love Studio Ghibli. But those movies were the only kind of style that I've ever watched. And then other than that, I've only completed Death Note. I've seen bits and pieces of quite a few different animes. I have friends that like anime. But it's the first one I've completed. So I think that has a lot to do with how it holds in my heart. And the real question is, I don't even know what drew me to it in the first place. It's not like I watched it in 2007.
No. Are you
when
talking
it
about,
came out.
Because I suggested Death Note because we were trying to get into anime, and I was like, you know what, we should give it a try. Mm-hmm. And I think we do this thing, you guys. Okay, and I'm saying this to the audience at home, where I will suggest something, or Amber will suggest something. Okay, we'll watch the first episode together. So a good example of this is Once Upon a Time.
Sorry,
Amber's gonna be bumping stuff this whole time. We started the first episode of Once Upon a Time. Amber fell asleep. Okay, slept through it, and then later she was like, it must not have been very good. I was like, all right, whatever. You know, I'm fine with that. I don't care if she doesn't want to watch it.
If something doesn't hook me on the first episode, I give up too easily a lot of the time.
But guess who the biggest Once Upon a Time fan is now? So she started rewatching
I'm not the biggest. I haven't watched the end still because after it, that's another episode as well.
I know.
I got to a certain point and I'll rewatch it up to that point, but I won't watch past that.
But she started rewatching and she was like, or she started to watch it again, and she was like, do you want to watch this with me? I was like, no, I don't really have any interest now. She's like, okay. The same thing happened with Death Note. I was like, let's watch this. And but it was actually we started watching it. We watched like 2 episodes or 3 episodes, and then I lost interest. I was like, whatever, I'm done. And then she's like, do you mind if I keep watching? I'm like, I don't care, go ahead, like, cool, like, have fun, And she was like, cool, okay. But you liked the anime.
I loved it. Even rewatching it, I didn't fit. The first time I watched it, like we said, we got up to like episode 20 something, and I got really upset when Elle died, so I stopped watching it. I stopped watching it, and I just recently rewatched it from the beginning, and I loved it.
My biggest question is, which do you like better?
Well, obviously, I'm going to say the anime, and I know you like the movie, but you haven't finished the anime, so your thing isn't...
I've seen enough.
Yeah.
No, what I'll say is, like, it's this thing of, like, I don't... How do I put this? I know how it ends, okay? And Amber's like, well, you have to see how it ends. And I'm like...
I shouldn't have told them how it ends,
I repeat. I've seen it. It's one of those... You know what? You know how I can tell when I'm not super invested in a show? If I'm willing to be like...
How's it end?
Well, no. I'll just go on YouTube and be like, Death Note ending, final scene. And then I watch it and I'm like, yeah. Like, I don't need to know what happened in between. I just needed to know what happened at the end.
I can't do that.
So... Well, you know what? Let's skip back a little bit. Nat Wolff as Light. Was that a good... No, seriously, was that a good casting, do you feel like?
If you're going to set it in America,
okay.
I think it's a very good casting. I think he did a great job.
So, what do you think about... And I don't know
Nothing
if he...
to do with my childhood crush on him from the Naked Brothers
we'll get
band.
back to that. I have a later note about that. But my biggest question is do you like the character differences between the two? Because I personally... So Light in the anime, dark hair... obviously Japanese, spoiler alert, I don't know if you knew that, and he, how do I put this, he looks wise, it's almost, I don't want to say the complete opposite, but like he has light hair in the anime, or dark hair in the anime, he has light hair in the movie, and I don't know if he did that, if they dyed his hair specifically for the movie. But he didn't look like Light from the anime. They didn't try to copy it, which is, again, probably why I like it more.
I think that's a good thing that they didn't try and copy the appearances and everything.
Because what I've noticed with a lot of Netflix originals is, not even Netflix originals, wasn't the Finding Alaska one, wasn't that Hulu?
Yes, that was a Hulu.
If they don't try to follow the base material perfectly, I have found that it is so much better. And I think that's why I'm so much more forgiving.
Well... I think you're setting yourself up for failure. If you try and do it exactly from the source material, it's not going to work right. No matter what, someone's going to be unhappy. So your job is to take that source and manipulate it how you will so that you still have, like, I think the heart of the story kind of thing with, I don't think the Netflix film really did that in this instance. But I think if you're taking ideas from it, and doing your own spin on it, that's fine. Because no matter what, you're not going to please everyone. Okay.
So, I'm thinking about it even more as we're talking about it. And that's why I keep coming up with more questions. Is like, so, the story is even completely different, actually, in the movie. Even more so, the more I think about it, because the girl that he first meets in the Netflix adaptation, he doesn't meet a girl like that right away. It's some other...
There's a few girls. Don't get me started on the anime.
But it's not the same.
It's not the same girl.
There's not one central girl who is like psychotic. And in the anime, the first girl that he meets, besides the one that he's dating to keep up appearances, that kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
In the anime, we're gonna keep.
Oh, you mean the main girl in the anime?
Yeah, the girl that
also has a Death Note.
Yes, there is no girl. Misa. There is no girl. Misa. There is no girl with a Death Note in this. Okay,
she just
for the most part. But which again, we'll get back to later because I have got some. I got some questions for that. But did you like? Because it's almost like they mashed those two characters together. It's like his love interest.
Well, actually, you didn't watch...
tapping in the bottom of your chair, or is that fireworks?
That's fireworks outside. I apologize.
I'm so sorry, guys. I was
People
like, is Amber tapping the bottom of her chair?
No, it's not me. There's actually 3 girls. Oh, wait, no, it is... There's 2
Because
girls.
there's the love interest. Well, not love.
There's 2 girls, but she comes back again later on in the anime.
To be clear.
In the anime, he has a girl that he goes to school with that he dates for appearances, basically. And then he has Misa, who he's completely just uses for her Shinigami eyes so that he can use that to his advantage. And then that other girl comes back later on, which you haven't seen because you haven't watched that far. The original college girl. And she ends up helping him as well.
Does she?
Yes. I don't want to... If you're going to watch it, I'd rather you just enjoy it. I think you should. I think it's worth it.
What about... So we've talked about Light. We've talked about Chica.
I don't even know what the girl's name is in the Netflix movie.
I don't. Do you know what her name is in the anime?
I know Misa, and then I can't remember the other girl's name.
But the other one.
If I saw it, I would know, but...
Okay, so we don't know her name, which... Whatever, you know what I mean?
The task force is completely different, too, because he works with the task force in the anime.
Her name was... her name started with a D. Oh, what was it in the movie? Because it was somebody else's name. Dolores? No. Whoa, it's gonna bother me now.
Here, I got you.
Because I'm Delilah or something. Was it Delilah?
I don't think it's Delilah. I'll look it up. Sorry if my audios are weird, but I'm facing my iPad now.
So
because I literally in my notes I just wrote chick.
What about Ryuk?
Ryuk.
See, we had very different opinions.
Here's
on this
my note on Ryuk. Ryuk looks dumb as heck. To censor.
So I thought Ryuk looked really good from a VFX perspective, because actually the first time I saw him I thought it was and it might have been a practical mask at some points, because he does look slightly different in a couple different scenes. I thought Ryuk looked very good, and actually it's funny because the way I hadn't really thought about it. What was her name? I
looked up the name.
Yeah.
I just looked up cast, and they have her written in here as Light Yagami, which is funny. And they also have Nat as written as Light Yagami, which his name was not Yagami in the...
What was it?
In the movie. His name was something else.
What should actually have been Light Yagami?
It wasn't Yagami. It was something with an L. Or with a T. Let me see.
But yeah, so Ryuk. What did you think of him?
I thought he looked silly.
Okay, but... Let's not worry about the name.
Turner. Light Turner.
There we go. Okay.
And then the girl Turner. I still haven't found because she's written as Light as well for some stupid reason.
Yeah. She's not important, obviously. She's got the same name as the protagonist. But yeah. So what did you not like about Ryuk? I
thought he looked kind of silly.
Okay, but what do you mean he looked silly?
Like, when I first saw him, like, you see him from the back, so I'm like, oh, that's kind of, like, mysterious and menacing. And then when you see him from the front, I just kind of wanted to laugh. But I guess I shouldn't say that, because in the anime, he looks freaking ridiculous, too. So I guess he was supposed to look silly, now that I think about it.
Okay. But I loved everything about him, except for one thing, but I'll get to that in a second. But I loved the fact that they used practical effects for his eyes. You don't have to find her name.
It's bothering me.
They actually used like orange LEDs for his eyes.
Margaret?
Her
name was Margaret.
I don't remember it being Margaret.
Which I guess she was supposed to be Misa then.
Okay.
MM, I would assume. Yeah. Trying to westernize her name.
But yeah, so Ryuk, I liked that they used orange LEDs for his eyes, because they were... It really, like, in a lot of the shots where he's like standing behind Light, like in the background, and he's kind of like faded off in the bokeh, the orange eyes really did help out a lot.
I guess. I mean, the eyes were effective. I was surprised when I saw at the end of the movie they have like random shots and they showed how the eyes were actually done, and I thought that was pretty surprising.
Because the one thing that bothered me about him was his voice. Everything else. Yeah. So the only reason his voice bothered me was because of, and it's Willem Dafoe, which I don't know if I just have a problem with Willem Dafoe's voice, or if it just seemed like, if it was almost like too normal of a voice.
I think that might have been it, because his voice is pretty extreme in the anime, and I think especially if you're comparing it. Another thing, speaking of the Gods of Death, they don't even have Rem in the anime.
No, that's
because of their not being a second
hold on.
Death Note.
Hold on. You know what? I will tell you that my notes later address why that is, because it is very clear with how this movie ends. Okay.
Yes.
But anyways, like I'm gonna keep saying like, oh, my notes later. And it's because like
I haven't even looked at my notes yet.
The last like 3 notes that I have on there are like, yeah. Blood spraying out of the guy's mouth in the restaurant. What did you think of a lot of the effects in this?
Okay. I did
movie
put that
cinematography wise.
Okay. When I first looked at it, we went to search the movie, and it was in. Actually, I didn't even search it. I was looking through horror movies because I wanted to watch a horror movie, and it was in that category. And I was like, that just seems strange to me that it's in that category. But when you watch it, I think that there's a few scenes that are really, really graphic, but not like, I feel like they're just on that edge where it's not like scarring to see it, but I think they do a pretty good job of making it dramatic. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, no, I gotcha.
I think they did a really good job at that. If we're just looking at how the visual of the movie in general, there were lots of scenes that I really, really liked. Like different transitions that I thought were really done nicely. I think whoever produced this movie, I think they did a good job with that. Yeah. And I also liked they did certain things like they don't really touch on the apple thing very much, but they kept focusing on the apple.
No. There's multiple times where you hear him like crunching on apples and the apple like rolls out.
Yes, but they don't have him react. One of the funniest things about the anime to me is when they go through, again, there wasn't an instance as they had to do this. In the anime, Light had cameras in his room, and he told Ryuk, well, you can't eat apples because people just see an apple floating in the air. So if you want to eat them, you're going to have to find a place that the camera doesn't touch. And basically, he has to go a certain amount of time without apples, and then he starts freaking out, and he'll, like, twitch out and go on his head, and it's just completely ridiculous. And he says he compares it to a human that's reliant on like alcohol or something, but it seems like a stronger drug to me. But I just found that comical. And in this, he just likes to eat them.
Okay. So how do I put this? I know they skipped a lot of stuff. Like you just said, the apple thing. I know they skipped a lot of stuff, okay? And I get that. But again, the first time I watched this was as Death Note. Netflix Death Note.
Yes.
This time I watched it as Death Note, the movie with no other, well, kind of, but with no other attachments, okay? I kind of tried to watch it as a movie. Basically as a movie that didn't have, not a, almost like if you watched the sequel of a first movie as just a standalone movie, you know what I mean? And you tried not to judge it off the first movie. I tried not to judge this off of what I had seen in the anime. And so I tried not to focus on stuff like that because obviously you're watching a 2-hour movie, right?
Oh yeah, they can't put as much.
So, and I get that, and I think that's why I'm okay with it because it's cut down. It's very pared down between that and 37 episodes.
No, and that's why I said in the beginning you can't really feel like it's easier to look at it as a standalone than it is to comparing because I have so many notes on if you were to compare it to the anime, like. We found not even comparing it to the anime, there were even inconsistencies that we found. Like in the one scene where he shows the girl the last entry of the note to show who died, and it was the wrong one. Because remember, it said like the first person, and he killed someone after that too, but...
Yeah.
Like things like that.
And then, but they brought it back. Hold on, because if they never talked about the first person he killed, later on in the movie they bring it back to, well, this other guy died, but not in a mysterious way. You know what I mean? So they had never looked at that murder, because you're talking about Light's mom's killer, and how they never kind of address that.
Yes, because then
he died first.
Yeah, he avenges. That's another thing that's different. He has a mom and a dad and a sister in the anime, and in the movie,
yeah, but
there's just a dad and the mom died.
But what I'm saying is they bring that back later, so that doesn't bother me. That's not an inconsistency to me because they do talk about it later, and they're like, yeah, this is why we didn't ever look at that death.
Yeah, but no, I mean, he was showing her in his physical book, so his book would have said that guy's name.
Oh, yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I get you.
So, I mean, it's just a little thing again. I mean, there's always going to be little inconsistencies, I feel like, when you're making a movie, you know?
Let's see.
Um,
L. Last character. Last major important character. Besides, like, Watari, but, well. What did you think of L?
I actually don't have very many notes on
Well, just your
L.
thoughts.
I think that his, how do I put it? Like, how he presented himself was well.
Mm-hmm.
I think they did a good job of that. They still made him obsessed with sweets, mm-hmm. which is an essential characteristic of him, apparently. And they didn't kill him. So that was kind of different.
Again, we'll get back to that. Because here's the thing. You're forgetting that this movie probably only, if you're relating it to the anime. Okay. So let's try to relate this to the anime. Okay. Timeline-wise. Because they're very different. This movie probably goes from up to what I saw where L dies. Very close to before that. You get what I'm saying? With what he's done. Because L starts investigating inside, and there's not a definitive ending to this movie. We'll talk about the ending when it comes to it, but any of the stuff that's like, oh, this didn't happen in the movie, I'm willing to look past it because, unless it was something that should have happened right at the beginning. Do you get what I'm saying? Like, for me, any of the stuff that happened in the later half of the show, like L dying, I'm able to say Netflix was banking on a second movie, for sure.
That could be.
Death Note
because
2. I 100% guarantee it, because there's no way...
There's a slew of characters that are introduced after L dies.
Well, not even the characters, but just the story. Like, you would never end a story the way that movie ends, and expect that to be a definitive ending.
I mean, technically...
Nope, with L holding a piece of paper. Listen, okay, L holding a piece of paper that all he has to do is write Light Turner's name on it, okay? It'll kill him. He's holding this huge grudge against him for killing Watari, okay? Which, again, we'll get to.
They get a Death Note in the anime, too, and they don't use it.
Okay, but you're missing the part that, at the end, Ryuk laughs and he says, "You humans are so funny." And Light kind of looks at him like, what are you talking about? He's talking about L having the sheet and having the power to kill Light, and for some reason... as far as we know, doesn't kill Light right at that moment. So it brings the question of, why doesn't L kill him right at that moment? And I feel like if Ryuk didn't laugh about it, I feel like it would be it trying to leave it, like, open. You know what I mean? Like, did he kill him? Did he not kill him?
He would be a hypocrite if he did. But, again, touching on the anime, he technically, in the anime, he stages someone. Well, I mean, I guess this doesn't count because... He basically has someone go on camera saying, like, I'm L, and has their name in front of them, and this is to say that we won't stand for Kira and blah, 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 and then he dies. But we find out that was someone that was going to be executed that very day anyways, so, I mean, I guess that still goes along with his morals, but writing a name in the book would go completely against what we would think his morals would be.
Yeah. We're going to just keep, like, jumping around a lot. So the running scene, not only when he's running through the high school, okay, but when he's running away from L, both those scenes, I don't know if they just told Nat Wolff, like, run like an absolute goon, or what they told him, but, like, he runs like...
Well, I mean, if you thought, like, your life depended on it, you'd probably run like a goon as well.
I don't know if I'd run like... I would... He's so... No. He's so... I don't even want to say agile, but, like, just... He's a...
Not coordinated.
He might as well have been flailing his arms above his head the entire time he was running.
I mean, honestly, I feel like that would be me in that situation. So again, I think it goes into the kind of, like, more realistic reactions that people have.
Hold on. And then the L chase. Was he trying to leave a path of, like, stuff for L to follow?
No, he was trying. He knew L was right behind him, so he was knocking stuff to deter him.
Here's the thing, though. As someone who has seen, like, cop chases and stuff, okay, the reason that someone tips stuff over to behind them isn't just like, oh, when the cop runs through 20 seconds from now, it's going to trip them. It's because if you're right behind me, so if you're like at the distance away from me that I am right now, right? And I tip something over, you don't have time to react to that. Whereas if you run around the corner and tip something over and then I'm running and then I see the trash can, I'm like, I'm going to have to jump over that.
Yeah,
like,
but how many 17, 18-year-olds know that?
Because he was like, that's the thing. He was like 2 floors above Elle, and he's like knocking stuff over. And meanwhile, Elle's like climbing up the stairs, and I'm like, wait, what are you doing? You're like,
I mean, that whole scene was just, oh my
like,
gosh, it felt like it was like 10 minutes long of him just running.
Duck
like,
off,
was that
and hide.
necessary?
And then, well, because I love the ending of that chase. Him being like, "Sir, go back inside. This is Kira," and I'm like, why? Why would you even say this is Kira?
And then of course, people idolize him, so he helps him out.
Hits Elle over the head.
That was pretty funny.
Kira, and then he runs, and it's done. The chick is insane, but Misa is insane in the show as well. So if I'm saying that she is the equivalent of Misa, she's insane in both. That's fine. I'm okay with that. But she just, like, in this movie, she's so, it's like uncontrolled psychopathy, okay?
Yeah,
like,
I feel like that's the most unrealistic character. I mean, how many girls, if a guy said, "Hey, look, I can kill people. Look at this book."
She seemed edgy. Well, that's the weird thing. She seemed edgy, but then at the same time, she was like part of like the cheerleading squad. Yeah, she was a cheerleader. She's like, I'm a cheerleader, but I hate it. Okay.
Well, I mean, Misa is a model, but she's okay with killing people.
Yeah, but she isn't. But no. But she's not like edgy trying to kill people. She's just trying to do it for good. Like,
she's trying to do it to get Light to fall in love with her.
It just seems like she's like I want to kill people because it's fucking edgy, and I have daddy issues, and. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I get that vibe.
She looked like Emma Roberts, actually. We talked about this during, and I was like, wait a minute.
Knock off Emma Roberts.
Yeah, like, I literally wrote knock off Emma Roberts.
She sounded like Emma Roberts, too. It was kind of bizarre.
I feel like all the characters in this movie were very, very good. I feel like they were slightly exaggerated. But I almost wonder if that's because in anime, characters are always exaggerated.
Oh, yeah. Always. They're always larger than life.
More so than in...
Or cookie cutter.
Well, more so than in movies, even. Because even in movies, characters are supposed to be grandiose to kind of like... You don't want a normal character, you know what I mean? Because that's boring.
And if you do, they use it as an insert. Like, insert yourself here. Here's a classic character with brown hair and brown eyes who reacts to nothing around them. Insert yourself in here. But other than that, the rest of the characters are always like larger than life.
The Ferris wheel argument. I know. I've been looking at this note the entire time, and I wanted to talk about this one. Why they're arguing, and I wanted to talk about this right away. That's why I tried to write as many notes about it as I could. But the big thing is like they're arguing, right? And she's like, "You wrote my name in the death note, blah blah blah." And then it turns out he wrote like this huge like if condition, like if she takes the death note. And I'm like, wait a minute. So hold on, you can write
there's if and when.
Like, okay, if my school bully picks on me today, his head is just gonna get like blown off. And like what? Like,
that wouldn't worked. In the anime, they specifically say that you can control the person.
You can control them.
You can control them 2 days before they die.
But that's not controlling them.
But they have to be dying.
Hold on. No, not even that. Not even that, though.
Even then, it has to be stuff that could actually happen. No, it can't be unrealistic.
Hold on. You're looking at this the wrong way. He's not saying you will take the death note. He's saying if she takes the death note, I'm fine with that. I completely get the fact of like Watari will, which we need to talk about that too. We need to jump back us for a second, but we're gonna finish up this. If she takes the death note, then all of this will happen. Otherwise, it's fine. And I'm like, no, I'm not okay with that because that's not how the death note is supposed to work. There's not if conditions. I can't say if my school bully picks on me today, then he's going to get hit by a bus in the parking lot. You know what I mean?
No.
Like, that's not how this works. You can't put
could control their actions realistically before they die, but you can't say if this happens
I could say my school bully will pick on me and then walk out in front of a bus.
Exactly.
Because then it will happen. But you can't... I don't like that if condition. I don't like...
that did not
Because then he says like, oh, she falls and hits the dock, and then I fall, or and then her boyfriend
falls into the water, and someone comes and pulls him to safety.
A doctor, but hold on, then they go back to it.
A doctor resuscitates him.
No.
Like,
But that's the other important part. The worst part about that is then it goes straight back to using actual Death Note logic, where he says, oh, but I can control these people because I'm going to kill them because this doctor molests his patients. So I'm going to put him in here as then he kills himself 2 days later. And this other guy that returns to Death Note is a child molester, and he does this, and then he dies 2 days later.
Which, I mean, I think that was just to distract from the fact that the one was inconsistent.
Those make sense.
So they're like,
but
okay, let's do this.
Those are right. Those are right. Like, you could be like,
I
hey.
mean, yeah, technically the girl ended up dying, but he wasn't controlling her actions.
That's what bothers me. You can't say, because here's the thing. It never does it say like, oh, you can write like, if this happens, then. No. It's almost like a programming thing. If this, then that. That's never in there. And you know what? This is a good transition to the Watari thing. They never tell you, or they never, as far as I remember, and we should have rewound it at the time, but I was like, I just want to get through this. They don't tell Watari that he's going to do whatever the person on the other end of the phone says. He tells them to call that number, which is Light Turner's phone number, and tells him you will tell him all the information you know about L. About the man named L.
Yes, and yet he's somehow able to control him over the phone and tell him to do all this other stuff.
Did they ever establish if that was a burner phone, by the way? Because you would think you'd think L is smart enough. L seems to cover every base, right?
Oh, yeah.
So you would think he'd be like, we need to check his phone records for this hotel room. You know what I mean? And they'd be like, he had a phone call to Light Turner. Wait a minute, hold on, what the fuck?
No, it was his cell phone though, and he had his cell phone on him. But
okay, but they could still check it.
Yeah,
they still could have. I feel like that would have been the first thing. Like, hey, did Watari get a phone call? Like, what caused him to leave?
And that's what it would have been.
And they never do that. He just comes to him and he's like, listen, like, if you return him, I will. Like, you won't be harmed. Otherwise, you will get the full wrath of blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And that bothers me so much. And then the other thing is, L seeing the page burn, right? Because he watches the page
fall into the fire.
And he sees Light Yagami's heart, or Light Turner's heart will stop beating at midnight. And that's the other thing of like, can you control it? So you can control people. You can control.
You can't control where a note falls.
Like if I write like,
unless someone set it in the fire, you could tell them to put it in the fire and then kill themselves. But you can't just have it magically fall in the fire.
They tried to explain it away by saying like Margaret falls to her death, and before she falls, the page falls out of the Death Note and flies into the fire. And I'm like, no. But you can't be like, yeah, unless like as she was falling, like she slam dunked it in the burning trash can. That's another thing. Wait a minute. Why is there just like a fire burning on the boardwalk of the Ferris wheel?
Yeah,
like,
because that's where you see at the pier. It was a pier.
Yeah, it was like
the Ferris wheel. It
was like an abandoned pier. Like
no,
I would expect that like if you was like in an alley, like that's normal.
No.
But it was like
just
if
random
you
fire.
If you went to like a fair here and there's just like a burning trash barrel,
that would not happen.
That's normal. God, like it. Like, there's so many. I feel like the Death Note is the one big thing that they have a lot of inconsistencies with.
Yeah, because that's another thing that I forgot to touch on with my notes. The girl touches the Death Note more than once. She is unable to see Ryuk. If she touches it, it says in the rules, if you touch the Death Note, you can see the God of Death.
I'm willing to forgive that. I'm willing
because they use that to freak people out.
I'm willing to forgive that. I'm willing to forgive that for the fact that it's never stated. If a rule is not stated.
Yeah, I guess it was just stated in the anime, but it's another thing. It's like, but that's an easy thing. Why didn't they just make it so that that would be the same? It's not like it's a hard thing to do.
Because I feel like Ryuk wasn't as big of a deal in this.
That's true as well. Ryuk's like always there in the anime.
Yes, he's not. I feel like the Shimigami are not as huge of a thing in the movie, which is fine with me. I feel like the movie is just fine without. And like that's the weirdest part is like you hear him talk all the time, like. They won't put Ryuk in the shop, but you hear him and he's like, oh. And you're like, wait, what?
What?
Which, like I said, I'm fine with the fact that they didn't have that happen because if the rule is not stated, that's how I look at it. again, looking at it as it doesn't need to be exactly copied from the source material. If they don't state it, I'm fine with it.
I know. I just thought it was an easy
I agree.
enough thing that there's no reason that they couldn't have done it.
Because then they would have had to include him in more shots.
I guess. But, I mean, it's not like you really see he would have been following Light the whole time, so it wouldn't have really shown him anymore. Because when the girl's around Light, like, you see Ryuk anyways because he's around Light. So it wouldn't really be that much of a difficult thing to do.
I said so you can save people with the Death Note too, which goes back to being like
the doctor that resuscitates him.
Well, not just that, but Light, her Margaret falls to her death while her boyfriend falls into the water, and it's like, wait a minute, like
how is he able to dictate?
So I could be like, Amber gets in a horrible crash, but Nick flies out of the windshield and lands in a puddle, and it's like, ta-da! Like, no, that's not how that works. We're getting very close. We're like the last like 3 things on my notes.
Oh, I saw another thing that I thought was really interesting because, let me scroll up to the top, because I didn't notice this until I went back and watched the anime. When they are coming up with the name...
Sorry for all the car noise, guys.
When they are coming up with the name Kira in the movie, Light specifically says, I'm gonna go by Kira. Like, I'm making this name for myself because then people will tie it to Japan. And in the anime...
Wait, really quick. One last thing. I liked the callback that the first time you see L is in Japan, even though none of the rest of this movie takes place in Japan.
That was cool.
I forgot. That was one of my notes. I liked that was a callback because, like I said, they never touched Japan ever again after that.
No,
Continue.
except for that and the saying that Kira is related to Japan. But they specifically say in the anime that the name Kira is based off the word killer in English, like Kira, killer. So, but in this movie, they're like, oh, Kira is a Japanese name. I just thought that was kind of funny. It wasn't like anything nitpicking. I just thought it was funny how they did that.
I don't know.
A lot of things are different.
I liked a few of the callbacks. Like I said, there was a few like, Was there anything else that you really wanted to talk about before my last couple? Because we're wrapping this up here.
I noted that, like, again, it's like all differences. Like in the movie, it seemed like most people weren't killed by the stereotypical way of heart attack, whereas in the anime, most people were killed by a heart attack.
Yep.
And they really touched on the thing that in the anime, Light literally views himself as a god. He emphasizes how he wants to be the god of the new world, and he's going to make the world a better place. Which again, I'm saying this in a plus for the movie, because in the movie, I feel like a kid wouldn't like go straight to that. He would be like, yeah, defeat my enemies and the mean people. Okay, but that's the thing. Instead of just seeing themselves as like this god and creating a whole new world.
No, I completely agree, and that's the thing is like I feel like it's more realistic, but also on the same note of like I feel like it's a different kind of psychopathy. I feel like Light Turner is much more edgy, I guess I'll say. Like he is very, I feel like he's edgier and he's less insane. I feel like
Light in the anime has like some sort of sociopathic.
Yeah, like he is definitely a sociopath. Like 100% Light Yagami is a sociopath.
Oh yeah, and a womanizer.
And that I don't remember from the anime.
Oh, that's because you didn't get into it enough.
But I know he's dating the one girl just for like
it's pretty bad. He uses every girl he meets. It's pretty funny.
So do you want to know the 2 most important notes that I have?
Sure.
First one is Death Note 2, which is a serious one. And then the second one is Naked Brothers Band 2.
Oh my god, I love the Naked Brothers Band.
Crazy car, you lead me. I'm going to be really honest with you, okay? Nat Wolf, I know you're going to hear this, all right?
Oh yeah, definitely.
I feel like your career has turned around and you're doing a lot better for yourself.
He was so little though. He was like,
Okay.
I think he's your age, actually.
My question was that actually? This is completely off topic. This is more for the actors. Was that a real band, or was that just like a reality show band?
It was because I actually, my friend and I were talking about this the one day because she also really enjoyed the Naked Brothers band when we were younger, and I always thought when I was watching it, I'm like, oh, it's like a reality show about these brothers who are in a band. No, it wasn't. It was just a TV show that was...
Was it filmed like a reality show?
Yes, it was filmed like a reality show, but it was just a TV show. But they did have albums, obviously, because of that show being so big.
What is Alex Wolff doing now?
He's in movies.
Is he?
They actually, Nat and Alex were both in a movie together not too long ago. I can't remember what it was called. I never watched it. But yes, they both do film still, which is interesting. But yeah,
Is it as good as Naked Brothers Band?
I mean,
If
is
it's
anything
no.
as good as Naked Brothers Band?
And then that
I
was
mean, come on.
like there was like
10
this
out of
whole
10.
like love story, but since it was like children, like
yeah, and the girl was like 10 years older than them.
It was really weird.
It was amazing.
It's really weird. Okay, Death
was
Note.
so good,
Death
though.
Note 2 though.
I don't think it'll happen.
I don't think it'll happen now that this did so
Poorly.
not even that it did so poorly. It's everyone watched it. It had views. It's
But
just
no one liked
But
it.
here's the thing. I want to see Death Note 2. I want to fucking see where they would have went because, like I said,
Well, you got to see the end of the anime so you see where that went.
Well, but I don't think I
'Cause they
have to.
probably would have done
no,
that.
but I don't think I have to because they go to. I feel like at the end of, I feel like they both start out, and you guys can't see this in the audio recording, but they start off on
hand
the same. They
measurement.
start off on the same. Well, no, it's like a branch. They start off on the same path, right, at the
Okay.
beginning, and then right around near like the 3/4 mark of the movie, I feel like that's where they split off.
Imagine a fork in the road.
Yes, exactly though, and I feel like the anime ended a very certain way, right?
Yes.
And I feel like if they had had the chance to do a second movie, which I fully...
What would
Do
they
you
have done
think-
with the second movie?
Light's still alive. Elle is still alive. Literally, the two characters
Oh
that
yeah,
have
Light
the most
even
beef,
still had his Death Note.
and Light still has his Death Note, and Elle knows he has a Death Note. Not only that, Elle has a page from the Death Note. Not only that, but he knows shit is going on. And doesn't he explain it to... Does he explain it in the movie to Elle, or does he just be like, you don't understand, you don't fucking know, like,
He
what's
doesn't
going
even
on?
have a confrontation with Elle.
Yes, he does. In the movie, yes, he does.
No, how?
Yes, he does. At the end, in the chase, right before the guy walks out to save him, he's talking to him and he's yelling at him. He's like, you don't know. He's like, you don't understand. He's like, and I think he even says like, fine, I'll tell you. And then the guy walks out and he's like, sir, please go back inside. This man right here is Kira.
So he never gets to.
He never
explain it.
gets to. But I think at that point, because that's the point of the note, the page falling in the fire in front of him, because he sees Margaret falls from the blah 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 blah, like all this different stuff, right? Or no, sorry.
Okay,
no.
how would he be able to read that as it's falling into
I'm
a
wrong.
fire?
Hold on,
I don't
I'm
have
wrong.
that
I'm
good
wrong.
of eyesight.
The only thing that page said was Light Turner's heart stops beating at midnight.
Correct.
But
So you
he
have to have
knows
the names on
something's
separate
up.
pages.
He knows something's up. Because why? He's smart enough to put two and two together that there's this, because he asked him about the note, remember? He asked him like calculus book, remember?
Yes, because something
'Cause he
about a
remembers
calculus
about it.
book.
He remembers
so he goes
that
in
she
his
has
room
the
and
page
he
in
finds
it.
Yep.
Okay. So, what I'm trying to say is I think that the second Death Note movie would have been Light and Elle kind of having to face off, because I'm sure Elle seems like the kind of person that doesn't want the easy route, right?
No.
He could easily have just written Light Turner fucking dies horrifically
Yeah.
in his hospital bed, just flatlines, his head explodes, dead. And instead, like you hear at the end of the movie, he clearly doesn't write anything because Ryuk starts laughing and he goes, "What are you laughing about?" And he goes, "You humans are so funny.
Interesting.
You humans are so interesting."
He says it like 5 times in the anime as well,
Yeah.
which I thought that was a cool little nod. He
Yeah.
says it a lot in the anime.
And I feel like if they had wanted to imply that him saying that was because Elle had written Light's name on it, it would have ended with you you see Light's eyes get, how I would have ended it.
They
If I
would've
wanted,
showed
well,
it.
listen, if I wanted a definitive ending, the way I would have ended it as a filmmaker is you see Light kind of get like this worried look on his face looking at Ryuk, screen goes black, and then you hear beep,
Yeah.
like the heart monitor, dead, right?
Yeah.
Like a heart attack, okay? It doesn't do that. It leaves it so open. It doesn't even insinuate.
They did leave it really open-ended.
And I feel like they only covered, like I said, half the material from the anime. And Netflix loves money.
Netflix loves money.
They not only love money, they love spending money on, like, big movies. But yes, do you agree that it was very open?
I guess it was an open ending. I agree. I mean, but then it's like, how many ways could they go with the second one?
Would you be excited if you all of a sudden saw Death Note 2 coming to Netflix 2021?
I mean, I'd watch it. I wouldn't have high expectations.
I would, because I want to see it happen. Because I feel like at this point, L is kind of like near the end of the anime, like before he dies. He's becoming unraveled because like he's realizing that like magic is real. You know what I mean? Not magic, but like spirits. You know what I mean?
He literally gets to see a Shinigami before he dies.
Yes, and I feel like seeing that would be like, you know what I mean? Like they always say like.
That's one of the only times you see emotion from him is during that.
Yes, but imagine that. Like you're such an intellectual
scene where they punch and kick each other in the face.
But you're seeing such an intellectual being, you know what I mean? And for a lot of people like that, and I'm not saying everybody's the same, but a lot of them are like, if something happens, it has a very logical explanation. And that's not spirits being real and killing people, you know what I mean? There's not a notebook that someone can write their name in and like they just die. So seeing that, I feel like he really does become unraveled, and I want to see where that goes. And I might just be going too far into this, but I wanted to see second Death Note. And why the fuck did you people have to not like the movie? All right, you ruined this for me. Is this what you wanted?
I told you they don't like it because they're comparing it to the anime.
And I get that. I understand that they don't like it because of the anime. And you know what? Honestly, I don't blame them, because when you compare it to the anime,
it's just like comparing your beloved childhood book series to the films.
Well, yeah,
it's gonna go wrong.
There's other stuff, and like I wanted to ask you about this. Like, what other stuff would you want remade? But I think we're gonna save that for a different podcast. We've been recording for over an hour. It is hot as fuck in here right now.
I don't think it's that bad.
So how do you think the first episode of Nappa? So hold on. Final verdict. For me, good movie. Okay, if I'm looking at it as just a standalone movie, good movie, very good movie in my opinion. I know some people are gonna argue with me about that. As an adaptation of the anime, following the base material, I think they did a terrible job. But if you're looking at it as they had free reign to do whatever they want, I think they did an amazing job to try and open it up to a broader audience.
I mean, I guess I can't argue. It definitely would attract a broader audience if people weren't comparing it to the anime. I mean,
but they made it as un-anime as possible. You know
they did. I agree with that completely. It didn't feel like I was watching a movie adaptation of an anime. It felt like I was watching a movie. If I hadn't seen Death Note before that, I probably would have liked it a lot more. I think as a movie in general, I think it was pretty good. I don't feel like I feel like Nat Wolff did a good job. The girl was okay, kind of bland in her mannerisms. Hated the dad. We didn't even talk about the dad.
I didn't really talk about him or Watari because they're not they're supporting characters.
They're more main. They have more of a play in the anime than they do the movie.
Yeah.
I feel like Nat Wolff did a really good job as the lead, so they did that well. I think if I was just looking at the movie as a standalone, I think it was a pretty good movie. It held my interest. A little bit of things like inconsistencies, like with the note, like we said. Yeah, if you're looking for something that is like Death Note the anime, though, you may be a little bit disappointed, but you could always give it a chance as a standalone.
But like I said, I think that's what they were going for, because Netflix, I don't feel like their main demographic is people that watch anime.
No, they don't have very many animes on Netflix. There's Crunchyroll for that.
Exactly. So to finish up, good movie, bad
adaptation.
Well, no, not even that far. Bad adaptation, keeping to the source material. Good adaptation in trying to open it up to a broader audience, in my opinion. And it sounds like you kind of agree with me.
No,
on that.
I agree on that. I think that makes sense.
All right, so it's hot as hell in here. So how do you guys think we did on the first episode? Do you guys think we did a good job? I personally think this went pretty well.
I think that anything you listen from us, we get on a lot of tangents when we're talking to each other normally, so that's going to happen here. And there's going to be lots of jumping around. So as long as you don't need us to read off a script, I think that people could possibly enjoy this.
And like I said, it's our first episode. We're kind of playing with like jumbled together gear right now. We do have 2 matching mics, so they should sound pretty similar. I was going to try to do something with like a USB mic. I was like, no, I'll just spend a little bit of money and get us another AT2020. We obviously already have my one. The setup's not terrible right now, but it is kind of just thrown together. So obviously we will be improving stuff. We will be making stuff better. It's also about making sure we're comfortable too, which is, I mean, these work a lot, but the stands work a lot better than if you had to lean forward into the table, wouldn't it?
That's for sure. I feel like my neck would be killing me.
So bear with us, guys, but we are going to try to improve. This is something I really enjoyed doing this. If it wasn't so hot up here, we might just move this to a different room. But I think it went pretty well. I had fun.
I feel like this is a normal discussion between the two of us after watching something. This is about how it goes.
And obviously, like I said, this isn't going to be what every episode is about. It's not always going to be about this. It is going to be about, I would really like to talk about Animal Crossing at some point and why Amber is willing to play Animal Crossing for 4 hours a day, but she won't do chores for 20 minutes.
Hey, I haven't even played any of it today. I haven't even picked up my Switch.
What are you going downstairs to do?
I should get my chores done.
Gotta go check on the villagers.
Gotta go get my chores done.
We'll also talk about Amber kicking villagers out of her town because she's a terrible human being.
I'm not. I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay, guys. Do you have anything else to say, Amber? Thank you for listening.
Sure.
Thank you guys so much for listening. We really appreciate you guys. If you guys really liked it, we would appreciate a thumbs up on the video and for you guys to subscribe. And we're going to try to push this out to... we're going to try to get this set up so that it goes out to other podcast things instead of just YouTube, so that it's actually available on your favorite podcast player. And yeah, just be patient with us. We're still working on it. So thank you guys so much for listening, not watching.
I knew you were going to say watching.
Did
I
you?
saw it in your eyes.
Thank you guys so much for listening. And I'm going to go call Trent and ask him how his puppy is doing.
Yay, puppy.
All right, guys. Gooba.
Gooba.